Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Connections with Cass podcast. My name is Cass, and I'm a psychic medium and spiritual coach here on this earth to help bridge the gap between the spirit world and the physical world. In this podcast, we talk about all things spiritual, healing, and a little bit about mediumship as well. In today's episode, we are going to be connecting the mind, body, and spirit and talking about how to understand each of those things in order to align ourselves to live the healthiest life possible. I think a lot of us go through life kind of understanding definitely the mind and the physical body, but what is the spirit and how does the spirit play a part in the mind and the body? In addition to that, our society and our world is infiltrated with different holistic remedies and different approaches to healing, as well as different medications and doctors and chat GPTs for that matter, perspective on healing. So I'd like to just break down how healing works from a spiritual perspective and how connecting the mind, body, and spirit within your perception can really help you heal the root cause of everything that is keeping you misaligned from living your best life. Because at the end of the day, we can fix our bodies, we can fix our minds, but what are we trying to do? We're trying to just be happy in this life. And I think that we get so conditioned to I have to fix this problem. Like my ankle hurts, I have to fix that problem. I have a mental illness. I have to fix my depression. I have to fix my anxiety. But why are we trying to fix that? What is the true ultimate goal rather than fix individual things within our experience, whether that be in the mind, whether that be in the body, or whether that be in the spirit for that matter? What are we trying to do? And at the end of the day, we all just want to be happy and healthy and live the best life possible. And so connecting all of these things together and understanding how energy moves through us, I think is critical in really coming into the best versions of ourselves rather than just being very preoccupied and living in fear over the different things that are happening within our bodies and our minds. So with that being said, let's break it down. Let's start by talking with what the mind is. The mind is a combination of our brain and our ego. So our brain is like the control center for everything that happens within our physical body and everything that happens in our physical reality. Energy is processed throughout our whole being through the chakra system, but our mind is kind of the control center for that energy being processed throughout the different energy centers. It would be like a factory that has a computer guiding all of the machinery to do their jobs. If the computer is not working correctly, the machinery might keep working, but it might make mistakes and it might be confused and it might pause and it might do things that make it a little bit harder for the product to be pushed out. And that just happens with our brain too. So oftentimes in today's day and age, when that starts to happen and we recognize that our mind is not working in the right way through mental illness, we immediately go to the brain and we think about what happened within the human experience that changed the brain's ability to work correctly. And we also think about why the brain is not producing the chemicals or working in a physical way in the way that it's meant to. But I'd like to take a step back. If we think about this factory, what about the actual electricity that is providing the computer with the power to work? And if the electricity is not flowing to the computer correctly, that's going to create the computer not to work correctly. So if I was an IT person, right, I would go into the different programming within the computer and think, why is this not working? Why is the programming not working correctly? But would you check the electrical supply to the computer? Some people would, some people wouldn't. That is what we are doing when we connect the mind, body, and spirit. We're recognizing that the computer is supplied by something too, and that is energy. And until we are really in alignment with the energy that is coming into our experience in every moment of every day, and we feel at peace and feel safe within receiving that energy, our brains are going to misfire. And in response to that, our bodies misfire as well. And therefore, I really believe that our physical ailments that we have in this life are a product of our energy not moving through our bodies in a way that is conducive to our cells functioning properly. When we talk about the mind, body, and spirit, I think it's very natural for us to think of the spirit as like a soul that is kind of separate from the physiological parts of us. Like our organs aren't our soul. but I think that they are. And I think that when our soul is not feeling safe or has experienced traumatic things and or carried in things karmically from past lives, our energy is being processed in ways that are causing our organs and our bodies to not work correctly. And even injuries that we attain or things that happen to us throughout our lives are a result of an energetic experience that is occurring within the universe. We talk a lot about how we can attract positive experiences into our lives. And I do believe that in our day-to-day life, in the smaller moments in our lives, in the little things, we have so much power to come into a higher vibration and to attract more positive experiences into our lives. But there are going to be the big things that we have to learn. I think that our souls signed up to go through certain experiences in our lives that are pretty traumatic and or move a lot within us in order to shift us into a higher frequency permanently. And so those kind of situations are going to happen regardless. And sometimes we carry karma that then attracts those kind of experiences into our lives in order for us to fully learn our lesson. So when we talk about even carrying energy from past lives, we don't have to go into that past life in order to clear it. We just have to recognize that that energy has brought us into certain experiences into this life and to welcome them and to welcome the lessons and really learn from them and come into a deeper state of alignment and peace through the lessons that we've learned. And I think a lot of times when we go through catastrophic events or we go through really difficult periods in our life, that is when we learn the most, right? And that's when we really transcend those karmic patterns because we are actually moving through them, not just saying, oh, shoot, that happened. That wasn't good. And then making that same choice or creating that same energetic response the next day. When we go through something really traumatic, there are different frequencies within us that are activated that are like, okay, let's not do that again. Maybe it's forgiveness, maybe it's gratitude, maybe it is just taking care of your mind, body, and spirit. But when we have like a huge health scare, for example, all of a sudden you might feel really compelled to kind of look into this stuff or take care of your body and mind and spirit more. Whereas before you would have just maybe ate something healthy for a week or two and then let it go. But when we have say a family member that's diagnosed with a terminal illness, then we start to think to ourselves and we may even really make big shifts within our lives to actually take care of ourselves more. So as we talk about the mind, body, and spirit, it's important to recognize that the energetic experiences that we have are causing a physical response within our body and our nervous system and our mind and our ego. And that mind is the emotional processing center and the energetic processing center that then causes everything to happen within the body. So let's talk about mental health for a second. So if you think about this computer running this factory and there's a product that's being made within this factory, and you also have to take into consideration not just the electrical input into the computer, but also the environment within the computer. So is the room really hot that this factory is in? Is the climate really hot outside? Is there a lot of sun on the building? Do the employees carry a certain frequency as they walk around the environment? How are the bosses of this factory? Are the people happy that's in the factory or are they mad and angry all the time? Because all of this energy is connected and feeding off of each other. In addition to that, you might have leaks that happen within the roof and all sorts of things, right? So beyond the computer, beyond the mind, beyond the processing center, there are so many factors that go in to how that processing center is functioning. And so we look at that in the same way with our minds and our spirits, where our energetic alignment, our openness and the way energy flows into us is just as important to our ability to process as is the actual chemical functioning of the brain. And when we talk about mental illness, there's such a focus on dopamine and serotonin and the things that aren't functioning within the brain that create mental illness. Where I think we really need to look a little bit more externally into the quote unquote spirit, which is the factory itself, which is the environment around the factory, which is the people that work in the factory. So looking at the history of the building, how old is the building? What happened in the building? Just like the factory, our lives are a culmination of events that lead us to where we are and lead us to that mental processing center functioning in a certain way. And when we ignore that and we just look at the base level functioning of the processing center, we're completely ignoring the root cause of where that started to misalign and misfire and not work properly. And so when I was in college and studying psychology as well as after college, and I was trying to find my way in a career within the psychology realm, but I just didn't feel like anything quite fit because I felt like something was missing. I felt like there was the nature versus nurture conversation that I was deeply invested in. And that was what was most interesting to me, as well as social psychology and how people interact with each other. But I just felt like something was missing from this whole conversation. And now I recognize what that is. And that's what we're talking about today. But it's really taking note of everything that you've been through, what you are predisposed to based on generational trauma and generations prior to you, which is separate and the same from the actual physical genes that you carry as well. But just recognizing that we carry things in with us, we also go through things as children that really affect the way our energy is being processed through our mind and our body. And all of those things lead us into different experiences that we attract into our life in our adult life, as well as how our mind is processing life in and of itself. And so taking a step back and really getting into how your energy is being processed now based on all of those things can help you allow your processing center to work better, to start functioning in a way that is conducive for the energy to flow through you and for you to feel better. I don't think personally that any amount of green vegetables or any amount of supplements like saffron or whatever will make long lasting results that really allow you to feel at peace deep within your soul. And there is such an emphasis on us feeling better quickly. And it's not a quick process, especially when we've been through years of trauma and all of the things that happen to us in our human experience. It's not going to be an overnight fix. But every single day, we can feel a little bit better. And I think when we take responsibility and we take our power back and we don't feel at the mercy of our bodies or our minds, we are able to start to allow the energy to flow through us, which naturally allows our bodies to settle a little bit. And every day gets a little bit better. And just feeling that power within us and feeling how full of light we are and how magical we are and how miracles can happen can drastically change the way that we're experiencing physical pain and or mental illness within our experience. And then when we think about the body, so we're connecting the mind, body, and spirit here. So we haven't talked so much about the body. When we talk about the body, it is the same exact premise, but for whatever reason, the computer is working pretty well within itself. However, there have been different things that have happened within the factory. Perhaps they haven't done maintenance, perhaps build up in certain areas within the gears of things that are causing the actual factory line to not work properly. And so all of these things are getting built up within the gears. And this can be for a human, like emotional residue, as well as you sit a certain way every single day and you're not walking around and moving your body. And so your hip starts to get really stiff. Then all of a sudden we need a hip replacement. And we're like, oh, yeah, my mom had to have a hip replacement. And it just runs in the family. We have weak bones and all of these things. But it's actually like so many things within your environment and your surrender to, that's just how life is. And not recognizing you are in the power here and you have the ability to clean out those gears and you have the ability to have faith that the factory is going to work. It's always push out the product. It has the ability to work. You have the faith that somebody's going to come and help you a little bit. And I would consider that like the angels helping us. Or when we shift our awareness and perception into a more kind of higher vibrational and hope for the best kind of experience, miracles do happen and things do happen and things do release within us. So rather than succumbing to, oh, that's just how my family's bodies work, or this was always going to happen to me, I'm getting older. Let's think about it as you always have the potential to get the energy moving through your body in a way that is healthier and better for you. And so the energy is coming in through your experiences, through the emotional experiences you have, through all sorts of things. And as we talked about in previous episodes, it can get stuck in certain parts of your body. And so those would be like the different points in the assembly line that different things have to happen. And that would be your root chakra, your sacral chakra, your solar plexus. And if you have stored trauma from there from past experiences, it's going to have blocks. And so that is why it is so important to clear out the blocks emotionally and energetically through shadow work and inner child healing or any sort of healing modality that you feel called to in order to allow the energy to flow, because it's not just the energy center where the energy is moving through, it's all your organs and all of your body parts that are associated. If you look back in your life and you look at different health issues you've had, there is most likely a huge correlation between the chakra that is associated with the body part that has had an ailment and your trauma and conditionings and programmings from your past. For example, the root chakra and the sacral chakra are your stability, your groundedness, your ability to feel safe and stable in this life and process your emotions and feel super creative. If you had a really unstable childhood, and let's just say, like in a physical stability standpoint, your family did not have a lot of money and you moved around quite often. So you never really felt settled and you had to make new friends all the time. Chances are that you are going to have problems within the area of your root chakra, which is at the base of your spine and your lower pelvic area. If you were always told that kids should be seen and not heard, and or you were taught to be really quiet and or told, taught or conditioned in any way not to speak out for yourself, chances are you're going to have sinus issues and or issues within the throat, the thyroid, and everything that is surrounding your throat chakra. Um, if you feel the need to control certain situations, if you feel the need to see what's going to happen in the future, if you fear the future, if you fear your intuition, if you fear that you're going to miss something within your intuition and or you just feel the need to control things, chances are you're going to have issues associated with your third eye and crown chakra. And again, not just the energy, but the body parts associated with that. So that is your mind. Physiologically, you may experience migraines, you may experience headaches. This is all energy that's getting stuck within these quote unquote energetic centers, but that are also a part of our bodies and a part of our organs and a part of our bones, even. And if you really get into an area of our body, and the Chinese medicine does a great job at explaining this if you're interested in researching it further, each area of our body does represent something symbolic to our spirit. So, for example, the left side of our body is connected with feminine energy, and the right side of our body is connected to masculine energy. And so, if you have had like an injury, for example, I've had an injury on my left ankle that was really, really bad when I was around 21 years old, that still affects me. I think about how my experience in this lifetime and my lessons that I've learned have had more to do with feminine energy in my life than the masculine energy in my life. And I think at the root of all of this, when we talk about the body, is that our body, it's like a plant. A plant can die and come back to life. If you don't water a plant for a couple of days, it starts to wilt. If it doesn't have sun, it starts to wilt. But when you water it and you put it in the sun, it comes back to life. Our bodies are resilient. And in addition to being resilient, they are also never separate from the infinite wisdom of the universe that can reset us all of the time. And I really feel that no matter how blocked we've become, no matter how misaligned our body has become, no matter how deep our mental health issues are, there's always hope that they can be healed. Just like in the factory, who knows what type of technology is out there that is going to come the factory's way that's going to cause the problem that is happening within the factory. Who knows if there's going to be an employee that gets hired on a whim that has dealt with this exact issue and comes in at the perfect timing to help us move through something. So just always having faith and always having hope and really starting to connect to that infinite wisdom and that light in order to align to that energy that is always there. But when we start to recognize it, when we start to use that programming center, use our mind to connect to the infinite wisdom and light of the universe, that is when we can receive the downloads and the understanding and the peace within our hearts to surrender, to let that energy really align us rather than always resisting it and always trying to think our way through things. And just like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, our programming can be dependent on the energetic experiences of our actual human experience, and it can be dependent on the energy from our soul that is connected to God, Source, Universe, Creator. And it's just like the computer at the factory. If there is faulty wiring or the connection is broken in just a little bit, that heat in the room that might not have been a problem if there was full power going into it is going to affect it more. If there is water dripping on the top of the computer, no amount of power from the source is going to fix the issues of the water drowning the computer. So we really have to pay attention to both things, our connection to our soul, our light within, as well as really healing out the human experience of our present, which is oftentimes what we carry from our past. So, how do we do that? Let's talk about how we really align our mind, body, and spirit in order to come into balance, in order to come into a happy and healthy version of ourselves. I think meditation is the number one thing that we can do to start to raise our vibration, to start to remind ourselves, to remind our programming that we are a part of something much greater that holds infinite wisdom, that holds the answers to everything, that holds alignment, and really connecting to these higher levels of consciousness and ascending this physical dense plane where we have all of this negative vibration that causes disease and illness, that causes pain, sorrow, suffering, and fear. Ascending out of that just for 5 minutes a day can be transformative in reminding our programming, reminding our body as well that we are capable of healing and that we do have the keys to unlock healing within ourselves. In addition to that, supporting ourselves, supporting our programming, supporting our mind with healthy things, with the caveat of not being too restrictive or worried about what you're consuming. Because again, I think that the way that we're consuming things is just as, if not more important than what we are consuming. But if you're doing like all the work and you're meditating and you're healing and you're doing shadow work and you're maybe even starting to explore your spiritual gifts and you're exercising and you're doing all the things, but then you have 6 iced coffees with extra sugar a day, that is going to cause either mental health issues, spiritual health issues, or physical health issues. And it's going to manifest to whatever is weakest within your body or your energy. I think that a lot of times, like especially when we're pretty healthy, I notice that sometimes like pain within my body or different stiffness within my muscles kind of shifts around. And again, I've done some research into the different body parts and what they represent, and I highly recommend you do too. But I'll notice that something emotionally I'm going through, if I just happen to have a weak hip as well because of my ankle injury that I have. And so with money and finances, if I am in a particularly stressed state about those things, I'll find that my hip hurts. And so when my hip hurts, I think to myself, wait a second, what's going on with my stability? Do I feel safe? Do I feel financially secure? And I'll go there before I go into what's wrong with my actual hip. And I've noticed how much I hold stress and hold pressure within my hips that I didn't realize. And that is a result of our mind's attachment to how things should be versus how they are. And so, like with finances, for example, I have certain expectations or certain feelings about what is actually stable for me in this life. And if my expectations aren't being met within that programming center, the area within my body, which is the root chakra, that is the financial stability, which is at the base of our spine, which is the hips as well, is going to hold or block that energy. And a lot of times that can actually manifest into like the muscles tightening without us even realizing it. And it's not until I started to meditate that I started to recognize how many muscles I'm holding tight without realizing it. You start to meditate and you do a meditation that says, okay, relax the muscles in your jaw. All of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know I had muscles within my jaw that needed to be relaxed. And it's really just amazing to start to notice how we're holding stress and how we're holding tightness within our physical body that then creates those health issues that we're not realizing. And with organs and stuff, we can't see them. So we don't know that we're holding our abdomen muscles so tight that it's squeezing our spleen and or the energy is just stuck there. And next, obviously, shadow work and inner child healing, which I brought up a few times in this episode and have talked at length for in other episodes. But really getting into the root cause of where that trauma started, where that block started, and honoring it and processing it and allowing emotions to run through you. And then thirdly, finding peace in what you consume in life. And that would go back to the food conversation. Just, having peace with eating high vibrational things, having peace with what you consume with TV and movies and music, and not allowing anything that you consume to affect your energy. And that can be done in a multitude of ways and is its own conversation, I think, or its own episode in and of itself. But all of those things just allow us to really relax into this human experience, allow our bodies to settle, and allow our minds to receive, the energetic supply from source, from God, from the creator, and allow that to be the programming or allow that to fuel the programming rather than our human experiences that have been really difficult to fuel the programming that then causes our bodies and our minds to react in certain ways through physical ailments and mental health issues. So, I hope that that helps you as you move forward with navigating any healing that you're looking to do for your mind, body, or spirit, and just really integrating all of those together in order to be the best version of yourself. And I will see you in the next episode.